That's pretty good. All right. Just about ready to go. Good to see everybody. We got 16 people so far. So what we're going to do tonight is something different because today is the appearance day of Sripad Ramanujacarya, one of our great acharyas. So we're going to speak about him tonight. I thought that would be a change of pace for all of you. We just put all this away. So let me make sure that we are online. Hold on a second. I just have to double check for sometimes it doesn't work. Just double check. Jarius, we're going to speak about him tonight. Hey, works fine. I thought that would be. It is working fine. So we're ready to roll. Okay. So because it's Ramanujacharya's appearance, we're going to chant a song to the Vaishnavas called Vaishnava Vigyapati by Srila Narottam Das Thakur, also known as Ebara Karuna Koro Vaishnava Gosai. All right, let's get the guitar and we will get ready to go. Okay, we will start. And so this is in honor of Sripad Ramanujacarya, who we're going to speak about tonight. And also, we'll speak about Srirangam a little bit. Ebaro Karuna Koro Vaishnava Gosai Patita Pavana Toma Vineke Yakaranika Tekele Papo Dureya Hemona Dayala Pambo Kebakota Gangaro Raja Koile Aschate Baban Dashane Pavitra Koro Etomara Hadistane Apurade Tari Hari Tomatstane Apurade Nahi Paricha Govinda Kohe Namora Vaishnava Paran Rati Janme Koriasa Charane Rodule Narotame Koro Doya Batnara Ole Eva Karuna Koro Vaishnava Dosai Baro, Koruna Koro, Vaishnava Dosai. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare. Krishna Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Rama Hare Hare, Krishna Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Rama Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Rama Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare, Krishna Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Rama Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare, Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Prabhupada Jaya, Prabhupada, Prabhupada Jaya, Prabhupada Jaya, Prabhupada, Prabhupada. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Paravatikacharya Also Tara Sitashi Shimad His Divine Grace Abhaya Charanada Bhaktivedanta Goswami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, ISKCON Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Anantakoti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai, Namacharya Srila Thakur Ki Jai, Porem Sai Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Ramo Nityananda Shitway Gadadha Shivasati Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai, Shri Shri Radhakrishna Gopagopanath Shaya Mukunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai, Vrindavanam ki jai, Mathuram ki jai. Jagannath Swami ki jai, Yamunamai ki jai. Shrimati Vilasadeva ki jai, Samaveda Bhakta. Parinda ki jai, Gaur Premananda, Hari Hari Bol. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gaur Premananda, Hari Hari Bol. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya, Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale, Shrimati Bhakti Vedanta, Swamin Iti Namate, Namaste Saraswati Deve, Gauravani Pracharine, Nirvashesha Shunyavadi, Paschatya Deshatarane. So Om Ganat Timirandasya Gananjana Shalakya Chakshurun Miditam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. So I offer my respectful obeisances unto the lotus feet of my divine spiritual master, His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, who so kindly saved me with a torchlight of knowledge while I was blinded in the darkness of ignorance. So, as I said before, tonight we're going to talk about Sripad Ramanujacarya, who is the great Acharya of the Sri Sampradaya. So, let us start. Whose appearance day it is today? Actually, let me read the translation of the prayers of the departed Vaishnava, not departed Vaishnavas, but this song by Narottama Das Thakur about Vaishnavas. O Vaishnava Goswami, please be merciful to me now. There is no one except you who can purify the fallen souls. Where does anyone find such a merciful personality by whose mere audience all sins go far away? One becomes purified after bathing in the waters of the sacred Ganges many times. But just the sight of you purifies the fallen souls. This is your great power. The holy name delivers one who is offended, Lord Hari, but if one offends you, there is no means of deliverance. Your heart is always the resting place of Lord Govinda, and Lord Govinda says, the Vaishnavas are in my heart. I desire the dust of your holy feet in every birth I may take. Please consider Narottama yours and be kind upon you. Upon him, sorry. Anyway, so let's start about Ramanujacarya. So Ramanujacarya is the main Acharya in the Lakshmi Sampradaya. Lakshmi is the Sri Sampradaya. And he taught, just a little bit about what he taught, is called Vishishta Dvaita, which means qualified monism, which is very similar to Achincha Beta Tattva. Achincha Beta Abheda Tattva. That means one and different simultaneously. Means that, ultimately, it means that it's just about the same as Lord Chaitanya's teaching, that everything is in one sense one, because it's all the energy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, yet there's differences in the oneness. There's the Lord, there's the living entities, there's the material energy, and what is that? Prasya Shakti, Vidaya Vishute, Svabhavaki Jnana Balakriyacha. The Lord has many different energies, and the primary energy is Tri Shakti, three different energies, and Vishnu Shakti Paraprokta, Kshetrakita Parabidikama Sangayan Tritiya Shakti Ishate, material energy, spiritual energy, and the marginal potency. We're the marginal potency. Okay, so let's go on and talk about Sripad Ramanujacarya. Before Ramanujacarya appeared in South India, in what's called now Andhra Pradesh, and he appeared in Kanchipuram, and we showed pictures of Kanchipuram the other day, and there's a wonderful story about Kanchipuram. Hold on a second. So, before he appeared in South India, there were these poets and writers called the Alwars, and they would write poetry about Lord Vishnu. Very, very nice. And so, after these Alwars, there was a previous Acharya, And let's start with the previous Acharya, about 908 AD. His name was Natha Muni. And he compiled all the hymns of the Alwars and put them together in what's called the Tamil Veda. Tamil Veda, if you can't guess what that is the Veda of the Tamils, which is the language spoken in Tamil Nadu.
Sorry, I don't have any information about that.
Oh my God, that's my Google Home, which is in Maya right now. So it's the. So anyway, so he compiled the Tamil Vedas, put them together. He had a son. His son's name was, let me remember, Ishwara Muni. Ishwara Muni, who died very early, but his son had another son. His son had a son named Yamuna, like the Yamuna River. And this was in about 950 AD. So this Natha Muni, who had a son who died, took sannyas because he got very disturbed when his son died. You know, it's pretty disturbing. And so what happened is that Natha Muni's grandson, Yamuna, had a spiritual master. Like everybody had spiritual masters in those days. Okay, so let's put that aside. He had a spiritual master, and there was a king, okay? And there was a king who was basically taxing all the gurus. Thank God he's not there today. Wouldn't want to pay taxes. So he's taxing all the gurus, and if they didn't want to pay taxes, they had to speak to the king's pundit and have an argument with him, or debate, as they call it in those days. He had to have a debate with him. And they had to either defeat him or they got killed. So they came to Yamuna's guru and challenged Yamuna's guru, put up or shut up. You know, give me your money or go and argue with the king's pundit. So Yamuna's guru said, I surrender, I'll give you my money. But Yamuna said, no, I will actually defeat the king's pundit. So he went, at 12 years of age, went to the king, and he challenged the king's pundit, the royal pundit. And he said to the royal pundit, I challenge you. You have to defeat my arguments, or you have to prove my arguments. Okay. So he said, I am saying, yeah, defeat my arguments, or prove or whatever. I'm saying that your mother is barren. So that's pretty hard. You have to prove that your mother is barren. You have to prove the king is not righteous. And you have to prove that the queen is unchaste. So all those things are a problem. Because how can you prove that someone's mother is barren when she gave birth to you? How can you prove that the king is unrighteous? How can you prove, because that'd be dangerous, that the queen is unchaste? So the king's pundit said, you gave me a riddle and I can't prove it. I'm sorry, but you must prove it or else I win. And so the queen at that time, you know, kings had queens, said, I like this little boy. So basically, I'll bet on his side. If I win, or if he wins, this little boy Yamuna wins, then you have to give him half your kingdom. And if he loses, I will become your obedient servant. I guess at that time, the queen wasn't such an obedient servant towards the king. Yeah, normal wife. So anyway, so the king said, all right, let's do this. So therefore, Yamuna, who wasn't known as Ramanujacarya at that particular time, he said, all right, I can prove that that the king's pundit mother is barren. And he quoted some Shastra. She's barren because she only had one son. That means she's barren. Okay, you want on that right. I can prove that the king is unrighteous. How do you do that? I prove that because the king assumes a certain percentage of the karma of the citizens. And so he's really unrighteous. You know, if I assume the karma of all my disciples, I guess you could say the same thing about me. That I'm really unrighteous because I have all these disciples who are just like rascals. And then he was able to prove that the queen is unchaste because she's married the king. The king is considered to be the, one sense, the representative of all the demigods, or the sum total of the demigods. So you get married to all the demigods, you're pretty unchaste. Ooh. At that point, Yamuna got the name Alabhanduru, which means he has conquered everything, and he got half the kingdom. So having half the kingdom was kind of nice. I know it was kind of nice, but it was actually what he got. And so he became enamored. Imagine you get a kingdom. If I got a kingdom, it'd be pretty enamoring. I would buy airplanes, Teslas, and everything like that. So Yamuna got very enamored. But his grandfather, remember his grandfather, not the Muni, was a sannyasi. His grandfather sent one of his servants to try to talk Yamuna out of being a king because he knew that Yamuna was supposed to be an acharya. So this is, it's a problem here. How do you talk him out of being a king? So what happened is that he couldn't see the king, he couldn't see Yamuna. So every day he would bring something like spinach, some special type of spinach, and I forget the name of it. He brought spinach every day, really tasty spinach. And one day he didn't bring it, and Yamuna said, "Hey, where's the guy with the spinach?" And they said, "Well, he didn't come today." And so he came, and then he was able to see Yamunacharya, and he gave him a message. Oh, Yamuna, not Yamunacharya at that particular point. And then his name, the guy, I think was Nambi or something like that. Anyway, so then he convinced Yamunacharya to give up the kingdom and take sannyas. And Yamunacharya took sannyas, and he was the next acharya. So after Yamunacharya took sannyas, Yamunacharya's chief followers was Sri Shailapurna, and he had two sisters, and one of his sisters was the mother of Ramanuja. Now, Ramanuja was called Ramanuja before he became Ramanujacarya because he is considered to be an incarnation of Lakshman, Ramanuja, the younger brother of Ram. So, and Ramanuja appeared around the year 1017 AD. And while he was young, he associated in his village of Kanchi with someone named Kanchipurna, another disciple of Yamunacharya, the previous acharya. Remember that? Everybody remember that. So, but Kanchipurna, who was a disciple of Yamunacharya, was not a Brahmin. Now, in those days, and even in this day, it's very important to keep caste distinction. Not for us, of course, as Vaishnavas, we couldn't care less. Dina hina yata chilo harinamu thrila. We couldn't care less what someone's caste was. Doesn't matter what someone is born. Kiva vipra kiva nyashi shunakena naye Krishna tattva veda se guru hai. One understands the science of Krishna, he can be considered guru. But he was associating with this non-Brahmin disciple of Yamunacharya, and a very close association, which basically Ramanuja's, he wasn't Ramanujacharya at that time, but Ramanuja's wife did not like that. I believe his wife's name was Rakshakambal, that's right. So, meantime, so he was married at 16. People get married early then, get it out of the way, so to speak. And Ramanujacharya's guru was named Yadava Prakash. And Yadava Prakash, let's talk about Ramanujacharya's relationship with his guru. His guru was an impersonalist, a Mayavadi. And one day, Yadava Prakash was describing a verse about the lotus eyes of the Supreme Lord, the redness of the lotus eyes of the Supreme Lord. And he was reading from the commentary of Shankaracharya, which compared the lotus eyes of the Supreme Lord, of the redness around the eyes of the Supreme Lord, like the redness of a monkey's rump. If you don't know where a rump is, that's the tuchus. And if you don't know what a tuchus is, that's the rear end. So anyway, so Ramanujacarya was massaging his guru at that time, and he started crying, and the tears fell on his guru's back. And the guru said, "What's the problem with you?" And Ramanujacarya said, "Well, you got the wrong interpretation, Guru Maharaj." And Guru Maharaj said, "Well, what's your interpretation?" And Ramanujacharya said, "My interpretation is that the Lord's eyes are as reddish as a reddish lotus flower." He was able to define or translate the Sanskrit in that particular way. So, Guru got very angry at his disciple. And he defeated his guru a second time when he described that Brahman was impossible to be covered by illusion or Maya, which is true. Here, let's get a close-up of me. Hold on a second. Whoops. There we go. So Brahman, it's impossible for Brahman to be covered by Maya. We are a cloud. We are covered by a cloud. You can't say the sun is behind the cloud or covered by the cloud. We're covered by the cloud. So, anyway, so his guru thought, at this point, you got to get rid of this bad disciple. I never planned any of this with my disciples, but anyway, his guru thought, let's kill this disciple. And so he talked to his other disciples and said, look, let's all go on pilgrimage to the Ganges. And if we all go on pilgrimage to the Ganges, we can kill him, and then we take a bath in the Ganges later on. Isn't that cool? So if you ever have to kill someone, take a bath in the Ganges. You get free from the sin. So that's stupid. So they all went to the Ganges, which is quite a distance away. If you're going from Kanchi all the way to where the Ganges is, it's, I mean, like, all the way north. It's actually like a month or two of walking to get there. So they got there, and Ramanujacharya's cousin, whose name was Govinda, had overheard this plan, and he told Ramanuja at that point, that you should try to escape. And so Ramanuja left in the middle of the night, and he went into the forest, not knowing his way back. Remember, they were months away from Kanchi. They were all the way in the north. The Ganges is in the north, not in the south. Remember that. You know, the Ganges goes into the ocean around Calcutta or Bengal. So anyway, so let's see. So Ramanujacharya went into the forest, and when he was in the forest after a day or so, he met this couple that appeared to be what's called a fowler couple. That means they were hunting birds. And they took care of him, and one night he went to sleep and he woke up back in Kanchi, at the outskirts of Kanchi. And it turns out that that couple was Lord Vishnu and, guess who else? Lakshmi. But they were taking care of their devotee, Ramanuja. Or you could say Ram and Sita, which is the same thing. So he ends up back there. Soon after the pilgrimage, the guru comes back, and then he sees his disciple, who he wanted to kill, there, and he goes, "Uh-oh, what am I going to do? What am I going to do?" Anyway, they don't say anything. So at that particular point, the guru has a problem. He's called to get rid of a ghost. There's a ghost that's haunting the king's daughter. And the guru goes there, and the ghost just laughs at the guru. That's Yadava Prakash. And then Ramanuja goes there, and he gets rid of the ghost. The ghost says that actually the only way I'm going to leave this girl is to actually take shelter at the lotus feet of Ramanuja. Or Ramanuja. So the ghost leaves. The guru's completely embarrassed. Poor Guru Maharaj. And then Ramanuja was eventually kicked out of his guru's ashram when he tried to explain this verse, Sarva Kalvidam Brahma, everything is Brahman. So he's kicked out of his guru's ashram. Guru says, I want nothing more to do with you. Meantime, Ramanuja is still serving that Vaishnava who was a disciple of Yamunacharya, whose name was Kanchi Purna. Remember, he's a non-Brahmin Vaishnava. And Ramanuja's wife didn't like this guy because he was from a lower caste. Oh my God. And meantime, but still, she tolerated. Okay, she tolerated. In the meantime, Yamunacharya, who's in Srirangam, sends for Ramanujacharya, I want to see you. And Ramanujacarya immediately rushes to Srirangam. In the meantime, Yamunacharya passes away. And when he passes away, there's three, I don't know if I can do this with my hand. Yeah, like this. Three clenched fingers in his hand. And none of the disciples knew what that was. But when Ramanuja sees Yamunacharya's body, he says three different things. There are three different unfinished missions of Yamunacharya. It was to teach people in general about Krishna consciousness, to write a Vedanta commentary, and name one disciple after Parashara Muni. So when he says this, the three fingers open up, and all the disciples understand this is the next Acharya. So then Ramanujacharya returns to Kanchi, where his family is and everything, and where also this non-Brahmin disciple of Yamunacharya, Kanchi Purna, is. So he invites his guru to dinner or lunch. And so the guru comes to lunch early, takes prasadam, and Ramanuja's wife, Rakshakambal, she gives away all the food to some Shudra and cleans the whole place with cow manure. Ramanuja comes back and says, where's my guru? And Ramanuja's wife says, he ate and he left, and I cleaned everything up because he's very impure. Wasn't the initiating guru Ramanuja, but he was the Siksha guru Ramanuja. And Ramanuja gets very upset, very, very upset. Then another thing happens to upset him further. When Ramanujacharya's wife, Rakshakambal, is taking water from a water well, pulling up the buckets with a rope or whatever they did, and also Kanchi Purna's wife, who's also a non-Brahmin, is taking water at the same time. Kanchi Purna's wife's bucket tips over a little bit, and some of the water falls into Ramanujacharya's wife's bucket. And Ramanujacharya's wife throws away the water and says, ew, the water's become impure. Even though nobody's touched it, nobody's drunk from it, just because it came from the bucket of a non-Brahmin. It's kind of stupid. So when Ramanujacharya hears this, he thinks, time to take sannyas. It's like Prabhupada's story when Prabhupada's wife sold his Bhagavatams for tea biscuits, or Prabhupada's wife said, when she was asked, do you want tea or me? She said, I want tea rather than you, Abhay Charan. And so at that point, that was the straw that broke the sannyasi's back. So Ramanujacharya similarly says, well, this marriage has to end, but you just can't end it so easily like that. So he arranges for a Brahmin, who he gives some money to, or some whatever, to forge a note from his wife's family, that in his wife's family there's a marriage going on in the next village, so the wife should go to attend to that marriage. And Ramanujacharya, after seeing that his wife gets that note, which is a forged note, says, I will join you shortly at the marriage. And as soon as his wife goes to assist her so-called parents in that next village, Ramanujacarya takes sannyas. That's cool. And he becomes Ramanujacarya, sorry, at that point. And he's given the name Yati Raj. Yati Raj means the king of the yatis or the sannyasis. It's pretty good. And then he starts taking some disciples. His first disciple was Adasarati, his cousin. The second disciple was a person named Quresh, who had a photographic memory. And so this Quresh preached to Yadava Prakash. That means Ramanujacarya's previous spiritual master, Mayavadi's spiritual master. And Yadava Prakash also has a dream in which Krishna appears and tells him, you better take initiation from your disciple. Yadava Prakash's mother convinces him to do that. And he finally has an argument with Ramanuja, or Ramanujacarya at that point. And he gets defeated by Ramanujacarya, and he takes initiation from his disciple. They switch roles there. And he gets the name Govinda Jihar. Wonderful story, actually. How the disciple... It's very similar to the story of Madhvacharya, where Madhvacharya also initiates his spiritual master. Just very, very similar stories. At that point, Ramanujacarya leaves Kanchipurna, and the deity in Kanchipurna, which I forgot to mention, is Varadaraja. It means the wish-fulfilling deity. Beautiful deity. I've been there to Kanchipuram actually several times in my South Indian tours. So then Ramanuja goes to Srirangam, and then he studies under another guru named Mahapurna in Srirangam, and then he's sent to learn a mantra, a secret, powerful mantra that can actually liberate you. He's sent to Goshti Purna, who's another disciple of Yamunacharya, to learn this mantra. And he goes many, many, many times to Goshti Purna. Sometimes 10, 16, whatever, so many times. And he's refused. Finally, Goshti Purna says, all right, I'll give you this mantra. It's secret. Can't reveal it to anyone else because anyone who gets it gets liberated. And we don't want anyone else to hear it. This was actually a test the guru was giving the disciple. So he chants this mantra in the ear of Ramanuja, and he says, repeat after me. Om Namo Narayanaya, Om Namo Narayanaya, Om Namo Narayanaya. And what does Ramanujacharya do? As soon as he gets this mantra, he goes to the top of the tallest building in the city and calls all the citizens and said, I'm going to give you a mantra and you can get liberated by hearing this mantra. So he goes to the top of the building and he cries out, Om Namo Narayana. Everybody repeat. And everybody repeats. And they all become ecstatic. Guru comes out, Goshti Purna comes out and says, you have disobeyed the Guru's instructions. This is very bad. You're going to hell. And Ramanuja says, I'm willing to go to hell. I'm just one person because I've liberated all these people. His guru says, wow, you are better than me, and offers obeisances to his disciple and basically accepts his disciple as himself, as his guru. So anyway, so many things happen. Ramanujacharya travels all over India, regulates deity worship everywhere except in Jagannath Puri. He goes to Jagannath Puri where they're actually serving in a very unregulated way. There was an ant on me or something. And Lord Jagannath doesn't like him there, disturbing his spontaneous devotional services being rendered by his assistants. And then what does Lord Jagannath do? Lord Jagannath has him thrown out of Jagannath Puri. He flies through the air, ends up in Kurmakshetra, which is the place of Kurma, and we talked about Kurmakshetra before. And so that's an interesting story. That's mentioned in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, that story. So then something happened. He wrote the Sri Bhasha. Sri Bhasha is the commentary on the Vedanta Sutra, because every Vaishnava tradition has to write a commentary on the Vedanta Sutra. Then something very interesting happened. There was the king of Chola, who was a Shiva worshiper, and he wanted everyone to worship Shiva, and even Ramanujacarya. So he threatened Ramanujacarya, unless you worship Shiva, I am going to kill you. So Ramanujacarya changed his dress, dressed up like a householder, had his disciple Koresh, remember Koresh is the one with the photographic memory, had his disciple Koresh dress up as him, and Koresh actually refused to accept lordship as the supreme personality of God. It actually insulted the king. And they put Koresh's eyes out. He was blinded. Then the king got this reaction from blinding Koresh, who was Ramanujacharya's disciple. The king got cancer of the throat. And many devotees called him at that time Krimikanta, which means worm throat. So he had like growth or cancer in his throat, and he later died from that. Now, Ramanujacharya said to Koresh after that happened, go to the deities and ask for your eyes back. And so, interestingly enough, Koresh went to the deity, Varadadharaja, didn't ask for his eyes back, he asked that the king would be forgiven. And Ramanujacharya said, did you do that? Did you actually ask for your eyes back? And Koresh said, no, I asked that the king would be forgiven. And this is the mercy of a Vaishnava, a great Vaishnava, the Koresh was. And so then Ramanujacharya said, don't you understand? Your eyes belong to me. You're meant to be used in my service. So he sent Koresh again to the deity, and Koresh collapsed in front of the deities, and then he had his eyes back. It's a beautiful story, actually, like that. Beautiful, 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 beautiful story. Other stories about Ramanujacharya is he was challenged by many Jains, actually 1,000 Jains, to a debate. He defeated them, and all the Jains committed suicide because he actually pulled the rug out from under their philosophy, whatever their philosophy was. Then there's the beautiful story about his wealthy disciple. He had a disciple named Dhanur Das, I mean, servant of wealth, basically. Dhananjaya means collector of wealth. Anyway, so Dhanur Das was walking backwards, fanning his girlfriend as he was holding an umbrella over the head of his girlfriend. And Ramanujacharya's disciples teased him, and Ramanujacharya said, don't tease him, I want to speak to him. And he asked the guy, why are you doing that? And the guy said, Dhanur Das said, because my girlfriend has beautiful eyes. Oh, what beautiful eyes, what great big beautiful eyes. And so, it's a song like that. And then Ramanuja said that if I could show you someone with more beautiful eyes, will you accept that person? And the man said, Dhanur Das said, sure thing. And Ramanuja took him to see the deity. He fell in love with the deity. And then Ramanuja arranged that Dhanur Das would marry this girlfriend. And it became nice grahastas. And they became so advanced later on. There was a particular point when Ramanuja's disciples would criticize Ramanuja's being so close to Dhanur Das and his wife. They said, yeah, he's just a grahasta, attached grahasta. And Ramanuja decided to teach them a lesson. How did he do? What lesson did he teach them? He told them, I'll show you a lesson. So that night, he went into the brahmachari and sannyasa ashram and switched all their clothes from one person to another. When they all woke up, they started fighting each other and beating each other up. And because they were attached to their clothes, even though they had very few clothes. And then Ramanuja said, I'm going to show you how detached this Dhanur Das and his wife are. So he sent some of his disciples over to Dhanur Das's house while he, Ramanuja, was talking to Dhanur Das, and his disciples were instructed to steal the jewelry from Dhanur Das's wife. And so Dhanur Das's wife was sleeping, so they stole some of the jewelry, she turned over, and they ran away. And so Dhanur Das heads home. The Ramanujacharya's disciples are watching to see what's happening through the window. And Dhanur Das asks his wife, why are half your jewelry, why is half your body not covered by jewelry? And his wife said, because they took jewelry from one side and I turned over to allow them to take the jewelry from the other side. And Dhanur Das chastised his wife for not giving them all the jewelry. So when the brahmacharis and sannyasis saw that, they said, this household is more advanced than any of us. So that's a wonderful story, actually, a famous story. There's an interesting story. One time he went to Jagannath Puri, and Lord Jagannath sent him to Navadweep. And there he saw Lord Chaitanya. Before Lord Chaitanya appeared, remember, Ramanujacarya was appeared in like 1017 or something like that. So he saw Lord Chaitanya, and Lord Chaitanya instructed him, just preach dasha ras, servitude relationship. Don't preach anything else, just let me do it later on. Then, in the final days, he gave some instructions to his disciples. And his instructions were, 1, we should always serve the Vaishnavas. 2, have faith in the Vedas and the devotees. And 3, conquer lust, anger, greed. That's a big one. 4, worship Narayan. You know, the 4 instructions. So he had them construct a metal deity of himself, and he breathed on that deity. And we showed the picture of that deity the other day when we were actually doing the South Indian tour on slideshow here. And so he breathed on that deity to empower the deity. Very interesting. And he said, this deity will be me from now on. And that deity is there in Srirangam. And then with his head on the lap of his cousin Govinda, he left this world, and his body was wrapped at that particular point with, it's almost like a mummy, Egyptian mummy, where they wrap you with the, I guess it's called like, almost like ace bandages, it looks like. Anyway, it's bandage, and they put some additional stuff in it, and they left his body sitting up there right in back of his deity in Srirangam. And if you go to Srirangam today, you'll be able to see the body of Sripad Ramanujacarya that's right in back of the deity, and the Ramanujacharyas, what is that, the hair and the nails are still growing. So he is a very, very important person in our Vaishnava history. As I said before, he's the Acharya of the Sri Sampradaya. The other Sampradayas are the Kumara Sampradaya, the Rudra Sampradaya, and the Brahma Sampradaya, which we are members of. And interestingly enough, the Ramanujacharya sannyasis are the ones that Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur studied when he decided to institute the Tridandi sannyas in our sampradaya. Because, I mean, there were Tridandi sannyasis, but the style of sannyas that we see now with saffron, that was not done in the Gaudiya Sampradaya before. Previously, sannyasis in the Gaudiya Sampradaya, they would wear a white lungi. That means gamsha, you know, longer gamsha. Like the 6 Goswamis of Vrindavan. They did not wear saffron. It was basically Mayavadis who wore saffron, and in the Ramanujacharya Sampradaya they wore saffron, and the Ramanujacharya sannyasis, they have 3 dandas, 3 sticks. The Mayavadis, they only have 1 stick. And the interesting thing is that in the Ramanujacharya Sampradaya, the 3 sticks are not wrapped like in the Gaudiya Vaishnavism type of sannyas started by Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. They're not wrapped, and there's a little flag on the top. According to Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, what we do is we wrap that, and instead of the flag, in place of the flag, which the South Indian Brahmins have, we have like a little crescent piece of wood that's wrapped around the other sticks. So it's actually 4 dandas, but it's 3 dandas with the jiva soul. So the little crescent shape, which I showed everybody. I mean, I guess I could show it there. Hold on a second, I've got to turn to my camera again. Okay. So this is our style of danda that you can see here. See this? There's 3. You can't see the 3 because it's wrapped with cloth. And this is like the crescent. Here, this is another stick which represents the jiva soul. So that's our style. Whereas Ramanujacarya, there were three unwrapped sticks, and it's still done today, the Ramanujacarya sannyasis. They still have three unwrapped sticks with a little flag at the top, and we're quite friendly with them in both in Sri Rangam and in Tirupati. In Tirupati, actually, they helped us with our deity installation when the deities were installed in the new temple, and I was there. It was quite an ecstatic occasion. So, anyway, that's all I have to say about Sripad Ramanujacharya. And he's just such a wonderful Vaishnava. And, I'm extremely attracted to him and his pastimes because I've spent a lot of times in his area. Srirangam and Kanchipuram. Actually, in Kanchipuram, there's a Vishnu Kanchi and a Shiva Kanchi. I've just been in the Vishnu Kanchi, not the Shiva Kanchi. And I've been to see the deity Varadaraja. And I took my tour to see Varadaraja in Kanchipuram. In South India, people are so hospitable. Oh my God. Wherever you go, they just give you all these idlis and sambar. It's just like everywhere you go, it's just like I remember they packed us up with like tons of idlis on the trip. I think some of the people online were on the trip with me. Who was on the trip? Raise your hand. No one. No one here was on the trip. You're all in Maya. Every single last one. So here, nobody raised their hand. Interesting.
Hare Krishna Gurudev.
Oh,
I was
Rangadev
on one of your trips,
So
Gurudev. Thank you so
Dharma
much.
was on the trip.
Thank you so
I think
much for your
Champakalata
mercy.
was with us too. You should have raised your hand. Champakalata and Rangadevi and I think three of you were on that trip, one of the trips with us. Okay. So Pran Govinda asked the question, we give respect to Ramanuja, who is the head of another school of Vaishnavas, never introduced Radhakrishna, but we do not give respect to his Sahaja, who is in the line of Mahaprabhu. That's right. Because Sahaja is confusing matter with spirit. And Ramanuja never confused matter with spirit. He made a differentiation. That's right. Because Ramanuja knew about Radhakrishna, but he's been instructed by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. This is described in the Navadvip Dham Mahatmya by Bhaktivinoda Thakur. He was advised by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu not to deal with anything but Dasha Ras. So they are actually servants of Lakshmi Narayan. Om Namo Narayanaya. I think Sumukha was with us too. Yeah, Sumukha was there. So we had a few people who are on the line with us now. Maybe in the future we will go if someone could hire a private jet. We went by bus, and it was like babysitting for 35 people. That's when I became convinced that sannyas was the right ashram. There are 35. There was only one kid on the trip, Padma, but everybody else was an adult, and I became convinced babysitting is not for me. Because I had to wake them up every morning. 35 people, wake up, you rascals, get in the bus, or else we're leaving without you. Yeah, Jayashree and Sadhvi, but they're not actually. And it was just like, had to bring them their bottles every morning, change their diapers. No, not quite. But it was really like babysitting. So next trip I go on, we did actually have someone who took care of everybody, but by my nature, I felt very responsible for everybody. So it was like a little bit of a anxiety thing. All right, who else has a question?
I have a question, Gurudev.
Yeah,
So regarding Yamunacharya's guru, who
yeah,
planned to take him to the Ganga and kill him,
yeah.
if he's a Mayavadi and, all the interactions of the material world are illusion, why would he care about bathing in the Ganga after killing him? Just
Why? Because my bodies also understand the law of karma. They know that when you're in illusion, you better do your best you can to enjoy illusion. That's what Prabhupada said. Prabhupada said, they say that everything's an illusion, but they make so many plans to enjoy the illusion. So, just like we talk about the illusion of this material world, but we're still making plans to enjoy it. you know,
True.
Isn't it? You look forward to eating very tasty food, right?
Yes, Gurudev, definitely.
You have your wife, you tell her, tonight there'll be a giant feast for me. Here's all the ingredients. I want to be served like a king.
No doubt.
And then she serves you hand and foot.
Yes, Gurudev.
So, so even though we know about this material world being illusion, vacho vegam, manasa krota vegam, jiva vegam, mudra pasta vegam, we're still trying our best to enjoy the vacho vegam, manasa krota vegam, jiva vegam, mudra pasta vegam. So Prabhupada said the Mayavadis are very expert in trying to enjoy the material world because you can't really be detached from matter without being attached to something superior. And so he was very attached to his position. I mean, it's quite embarrassing to have a disciple show you that he knows everything you've been teaching is wrong. It is quite embarrassing in front of the other. I mean, your prestige goes to hell, right?
Yes, Gurudev.
So the poor guy, but he mitigated his offense by taking initiation from his disciple. It's an interesting story. It's an interesting story. I mean, it's just so much nice heritage we have with Yamunacharya. Madhvacharya is another big story. Madhvacharya is a really interesting story. Madhvacharya is an incarnation or a expansion of Vayu, son of Vayu. And he was a very special guru who used to wrestle with his disciples. And he would challenge wrestlers. Can you imagine? Guru Maharaj is like the Hulk.
I like that.
He was like Superman. He had superpowers. Can you imagine a guru with superpowers? He should be your guru, Gopal. you just got you just got a 90-pound wimp as a guru. So
Can I ask one more small question?
Yes, one more small question.
Regarding Ramanujacarya being an incarnation of Lakshman, isn't Lakshman Vishnu Tattva? So is Ramanujacarya Vishnu Tattva? Or is he
I would assume so, or you could say that he was an empowered incarnation. That's not really described. But anyway, he was empowered or direct incarnation.
Thank you.
Because a disciple can be empowered by a specific individual. I mean, a person can be empowered by a specific spiritual individual or by the Lord. Just like there's that story in Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's pastime of Nishingananda Brahmachari, that if someone saw him, it was equivalent to seeing, or Prajuna Brahmachari, one of the two. It was equivalent to seeing Lord Chaitanya. So this is really amazing. I mean, Lord Chaitanya can do many amazing things. Okay,
Gurudev,
and
Hare Krishna, Gurudev. I just want to
yeah,
understand, is there any significance why Ramanujacarya's body is kept like that? Uh, was there any mystery behind it? Why
I
his
didn't
body
quite.
was?
Good. Your voice is sort of like it's
Can you hear
garbled.
me now? Can you hear me now?
Yeah, speak a little slower.
Yeah, I want to understand what is the mystery behind Ramanujacarya's body being kept as it is right now. Is there any specific mystery behind it, or it is just?
The only point is that the spiritual master's body is considered transcendental. So whether that's put in a samadhi under the ground rather than burnt like an ordinary person's body, actually all sannyasi's body is supposed to be like that. It's considered transcendental because he used that in his pure devotional service. Just like even Prabhupada's car is kept as a memorial at Prabhupada's Samadhi in Sridham Mayapur. But I don't know of any reason why they treated the body like that rather than inter it in the ground. Obviously, they must have had instructions from Sripad Ramanujacarya.
Okay, I just was curious to know, is there any kind of a specific uh, mystery behind it, or for the benefit of the people in future,
Yeah,
or something
I don't
else?
know, I don't know the mystery. And two other questions here. Why did was why was Madhvacharya accepted? Um, Madhvacharya was accepted because Ishwara Puri and Madhavendra Puri were in the line from Madhvacharya, and they had received uh, Lord Chaitanya's mercy even before Lord Chaitanya appeared, and they had actually known about Radha and Krishna. Although Madhvacharya didn't really speak about Radha, but he did worship Krishna. Essentially, Madhvacharya worshipped Krishna. In fact, he has that deity that he discovered in the ocean, Gopal deity that he discovered when he was bathing in the ocean. And here was someone asked the question, I thought it was Mahapurna's wife with the water well pastime. Sometimes in certain biographies they use a different name. Uh, Kanchipurna, Mahapurna, and some of the details differ from one biography to another. That's why in the biography, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur said the biographies are not always that historically accurate, but the bhavas and the tattvas are explained properly. So, you might find different names there, but that's not really the issue. Okay, on that happy note, we had a lot of people tonight. Tomorrow night, we're going to be continuing with our Ramayan pastimes, and it's going to be Sunday here. So we got 3 more classes with the Ramayan. That's tomorrow night, which is in the morning for those of you in the South Pacific. And then on Wednesday, which is Ram Nomi, in the morning here, which is late in the night for those of you in the South Pacific. And then in the evening on Wednesday, which is Thursday morning for those of you in the South Pacific, we'll be speaking about Lord Ram. So tomorrow, same time, same station, we're going to actually be speaking more about Lord Ram's appearance. Probably we're going to be talking more, about Lord Ram's appearance, and in addition, the appearance of my favorite friend, Robin. I love Robin. I'm a Robin Bhakta. So anyways, we'll speak about him tomorrow. He's so interesting. I love him. Okay. Dasagriva ki jai. Dasagriva ki jai. Dasagriva. If you don't know who Dasagriva is, it means 10-headed one. That's Robin. Dasagriva ki jai. Kumbhakarna ki jai. Kumbhakarna ki jai. Kumbhakarna ki jai. Surpanaka ki jai. Surpanaka ki jai. Surpanaka ki jai. I love them. Okay, on that happy note, we'll see everybody